Today we are going to demo the XDP platform. XDP is a SaaS product developed by Paritybit. Its cutting-edge privacy computing technology enables cross-organizational data collaboration without sharing raw data. The platform is deployed on AWS and open to the public. After login, you can see a dashboard visualizing your data assets. You can customize your own data dashboard according to your needs. Let's take a look at our data marketplace. Here, you can explore data published by other organizations. You can also publish your own dataset for others to use. To create a dataset, go to Mine and then Dataset. You can see a list of the datasets you've uploaded and those to which you've been granted access. Click on the Create Dataset button to create a new dataset. You can upload data from your local device or other data sources with any format. Our platform supports several file types, such as VCF and BAM, which are common with bioinformatics data, as well as other common file types such as HTML, PDF, and CSV. If you want to make your dataset discoverable to other platform users, you can publish it. Here, you can choose to publish it as either public or private. For public datasets, all users can access and use them without any authorization, whereas with private datasets, users must apply for access before they can view or use any private dataset. Once a dataset has been published, you can find it in the data marketplace. Here we can see there are public and private datasets, and if you go to a public dataset, you'll see that you can view and use the raw data without being authorized. Notice, however, that with a private dataset, although we can see the dataset overview, the raw data is not visible if we do not have prior authorization. Let's take a look at a CSV file on a private dataset. Since I don't have the access to this private set, I can only see the data schema instead of the raw data itself. To view and use this dataset, we need to click on this button to apply for access. When applying for access, you need to select an authorization type. Data readable, meaning that you can use and see the raw data, or data unreadable, meaning that you can only use the data without seeing it. Unreadable data can only be processed by applications that don't require any direct interaction with users. When you apply, your application will be sent to the organizational leader who owns the dataset. Once approved for readable data, you can both view and use it, while for unreadable data authorization, you can only use without viewing the raw data. Besides discovering data in the marketplace, you can also find data you need using our query tool. For example, if you want to analyze the effects of drinking and smoking, you can write SQL queries to get data from both medical and bioinformatics datasets on the platform. The result will be visible if you are authorized to all datasets involved. Otherwise, you will have to apply for access to each dataset. If you don't know how to write SQL queries, that's completely okay. You can use our Smart Query Builder to help you find what you're looking for. Now let's move on to the next section, at Marketplace. You can find different types of applications to process your data. For example, our platform has a number of third-party integrations such as RStudio and Jupyter Notebook. Since many of our clients need to process bioinformatic data, we have a number of bioinformatics pipelines. We also offer a powerful data cleansing tool, DataWand, which we'll discuss in more detail later. If you can't find an appropriate app for your data analysis, you can also run your own Docker image using our Docker runner, or upload your own pipeline using the workflow description language, WDL. On the XDP platform, all data processing and collaboration take place within the projects area. You can create a project by clicking on this button. Your team leader will then receive your application for opening a project, and once approved, you can start analyzing data. We're currently viewing a project. There's a dashboard on this page showing you project details and resource usage. You can invite other platform users to join your project through entering their emails. Under Data, there are 3 folders, which are Dataset, Workspace, and Doc. The Dataset folder is used to store datasets that are added into this project. The Workspace folder is for you to store the output generated by your data analysis process. And you can put your relevant project documents under the Doc folder. The first step of your data analysis process is to add datasets into the project. You can click on this button to add any datasets you created or are authorized to use into the project so that every project member can use it. After adding datasets into the project, the next step is to add applications for your data analysis. Click on this button and add applications from the App Marketplace or your own WDL application. Then you can click Run to launch an instance and process your data. You will be navigated to the app configuration page. Here, you can configure your application in ways such as the instance type you want to launch or input datasets you want to use. After configuration, you can hit Run, and the platform will create a security sandbox for you to process data. For detailed information of each instance, go to Instances. Here's the list of all terminated and running instances. As I mentioned earlier, XDP has different types of applications for users to process data. Let's talk about these applications. The first is Docker Runner. You can register your own Docker image to the platform and run it with Docker Runner. After launching the application, you can add inputs on the top left and see all of your outputs on the bottom left. On the top right, you will see a terminal interface where you can analyze data. You can also write Linux commands to navigate and process your data. For example, we're training a model using some data that we have here. We run scripts and the output is generated and shown on the output area. You can export the output to your project space. Once you terminate the instance, all data will be destroyed, so make sure you export your output before terminating the instance. Another type of application is for pipelining, which we call a workflow app. These applications are typically used in bioinformatics and take input data to generate a direct output. No direct interaction is required between users and the application. You can view the flowchart of the application and configure each node in the workflow. Our platform is integrated with a number of useful workflow apps, and you can also create your own with the Workflow Description Language, or WDL. The third type of application is what we call a service app. These applications have a graphical user interface and usually come from third parties. Examples include RStudio, Jupyter Notebook, and VNC Desktop. After configuring the instance, the application can be opened through your browser. For example, we launch an instance for Jupyter Notebook. You can see the datasets and write your own code to process the data. You can also export the output as well. Another example is the remote desktop. If you're not a developer, you can use this app to process your data. The last app I'd like to talk about is the data cleansing app developed by Paritybit, DataWand. DataWand is used to cleanse and harmonize unstructured data and make it suitable for analysis. We first need to import the unstructured dataset we want to cleanse and create a cleansing workflow for it. We start by selecting a dataset. Click Select Data to add a dataset, which we can then preview. Next is to choose the columns that we wish to be cleansed, for example, date confirmation, symptoms, and symptoms code, these three columns. Then we have to create a workflow for the cleansing task. DataWand will sample the raw data first, and we need to set up the cleansing criteria. We use the sample data to refine the criteria by checking if there are invalid values. We then apply the cleansing criteria to clean the whole dataset. These three columns are the data we chose to cleanse. DataWand displays statistics such as distribution of missing values and how many times each value appears. The next step is to set the master data for specific columns. Take date confirmation as an example. This column of data should be in a date-time format. We can select Basic, Date-Time, and hit Confirm. Now DataWand will check how many valid and invalid values there are under this criteria in the column. We can set the master data for the column Symptoms in the same way. This column is considered dictionary type. Each symptom has its corresponding code, so here we select dictionary name. The same thing applies to the column labeled Symptoms Code. After setting the master data, we can see that both columns contain invalid values. There are two types of invalid values displaying here. First, there is a semicolon before the word rash. This is a typo. In order to fix that, we need to perform customized cleansing on that column. We select Basic Mode, and then use the Text Replace feature to replace the semicolon with empty text for the Symptoms column. Click Confirm, and you can see that the value rash is corrected. The second situation is another typical case. Sometimes new valid values are added in the data, but the dictionary is not updated, so those new values cannot be recognized. As a result, we have to add these new values into the dictionary. First, we need to edit and manage the dictionary. We can click on Statistics of Entry Frequency, Double Row Statistics, Symptoms, and the corresponding symptoms code. We can calculate the frequency of occurrence for symptoms code and symptoms. The first 5 values are included in our dictionary, so we can choose the last one, adenomegaly, and add it to our dictionary. After we confirm that there are no invalid values, we can use the criteria to cleanse the entire dataset. Once the task is done, we can view the result and statistics. If the data is not 100% cleansed, we can continue cleansing. If the result meets our expectation, we can save and export it. We can find it under the path you've assigned and export it to a new dataset. When you go back to the XDP platform, you'll see it under My Dataset. Now I'd like to introduce XDP Federation. Multiple XDP platforms can form a federation, and you can connect other XDP platforms which are in your federation. XDP Federation enables cross-border data discovery and collaboration. Now I'm showing the system administration platform. As you can see, our platform has already connected to another platform that's within our federation. If we go back to the data marketplace, we can discover data from connected platforms. If you want to use their datasets, you have to apply for access. A common use case of XDP Federation is that organizations usually conduct federated learning to train their AI models together. To conduct federated learning, first you have to add the federated learning app into your project. Hit Run and configure the application. You can add other participants in the configuration page. After you launch the instance, you can open it in your web browser. First, we give this task a name, select an algorithm type, and write the description. The second step is to specify the training dataset and validation dataset. Next, we need to configure the parameters. The last step is to confirm all information is entered correctly. If everything looks good, we can start the task. During the process, you can check the training status of each participant node and the log of the task. Once the task is done, you can view the result of the training. If you're not satisfied with the result, you can rerun the task and modify the parameters. You can also check the task history. XDP provides an end-to-end solution for data governance, discovery, sharing, and computation. Using the platform, organizations can share data securely with internal or external partners across the globe. Join us today and see how we can help you build your place in the IODC, the Internet of Data and Computing.